Rosa Luxemburg saw it clearly. She posited that capitalism, to survive, must constantly expand into non-capitalist territories, the colonies, the pre-industrialized world. Once that world was fully consumed, the system would turn on itself in a violent crisis. The war, she warned, was the method of capital accumulation by other, more brutal means. And so the call went out, not to defend freedom, but to defend the investments and the empires of the ruling class. Patriotic fervor, nationalism, was manufactured by the press, owned by the same industrialists who would profit from the endless demands for shells, rifles, and uniforms. The working men of Europe and beyond, who shared more in common with each other than with their factory-owning masters, were marched to the slaughter. They were told to fight for king and country, but in reality, they were fighting to decide whether German or British capital would dominate the iron fields of Alsace-Lorraine, the oil fields of the Middle East, and the riches of Africa. This was the great bloody secret of the war. It was an imperialist war, a colonial war, infighting amongst so-called white communities fought on European soil. The collapse of the white supremacist myth. And the empires brought their colonies with them. Millions of soldiers from India, Africa, Asia were all dragged into a white man's war, sent to die for an empire that denied them their own basic human rights. They were cannon fodder in a struggle to decide which set of white rulers would continue to exploit them. The war was not just a European white civil war, it was the violent apex of global colonialism. But in the midst of the carnage, a crack appeared in the machine. In 1917, the Russian people, soldiers and workers alike, had had enough. They turned their guns the other way. They overthrew the Tsar and then the provisional government that sought to continue the war. The Bolsheviks, under the slogan "Peace, Land, and Bread," understood the war for what it was, an imperialist butchery. They pulled Russia out of the conflict, exposing the lie that the war was one of national defense. This was the great fear of every ruling class, that the workers would see their common cause across national lines. The war ended in 1918. The machine had gorged itself on over 20 million lives. But it was not finished. The Treaty of Versailles did not dismantle the imperial system, it merely reshuffled the colonies, punishing Germany and creating the perfect conditions for a new, more dangerous poison to rise from the ashes.